I think we're going to get started now, and some people might filter in. It's my pleasure to introduce my friend via Papua New Guinea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We are always blessed when Perry and Sandy are available to come to the conference because they bring a wealth of experience. Sandy was the women's director of the women's ministry at her church for 17 years. She's traveled all over the world ministering to missionary women, MKs. Mm-hmm. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Sandy to you.
Thanks very much. And this is my girlfriend, Wendy Johnson, and she and her husband serve as recruiters for Wycliffe and have a number of other jobs as well. And it was our privilege to live by each other in Papua New Guinea for several years. So it's always great to come to Minnesota because we get to see them. So I think this microphone's on, but then I have to stand right in front of it, and I kind of move around, and so I have a big mouth. I hope you don't have any problem hearing me, but if you do, just raise your hand and say speak louder, and we'll try to take care of that. I am a very interactive presenter in that we're going to talk with each other, and I'm sure many of you have experiences or things to share as well, and we just want to take advantage of this hour that we have together to be as informal with each other as we possibly can to talk about couples, missionary couples on the field, and how we can proactively help them in their journey, help them in what they are doing. So I've given you, you'll see a set of notes that's just like this. Unlike my husband, Perry, I'm not the presenter that does all the clicking and this and that. I just can't be bothered. But I'm a talker. And so we just want to engage with each other. And so the notes are very minimalistic too, although you will see there's places, if you are a note taker and you want to jot some things down, I've left space for that. But then when we get to the back sheet, I was asked for us to discuss a little bit about debriefing. And so I'm just going to give you a few thoughts on that, because really, we could spend a morning talking about debriefing. We could spend a whole day just talking about missionary marriages. So we've really got to hit this hard and fast, and there's so much that we won't be able to talk about. It just is inevitable. We can't cover all of this. So I've tried to come up with just some succinct things that are common to every missionary couple that I know. And we'll discuss some of those. And some of them you may go, oh, well, I already know that. I already know that. I hope you do. I really hope you do. But then again, I hope there are things that we'll be able to share with each other tonight that will be perhaps a new aha for you as you provide care. So when we titled this, when a married couple responds to God's call to serve cross-culturally, they become a great threat to Satan and his kingdom, leaving the security of home, adapting to a different culture, finding a place within a new community presents an unbelievable amount of stress on a marriage. So we're going to look at how you as caregivers can minister from a distance and as well provide some debriefing tools for you. So I'm so glad that you've come to this session tonight. And if you have any questions, well, just butt in. Let's just be that relaxed with each other. So and share with each other. The very first thing I want to say to you all, though, is as a caregiver, I hope that you have a defined relationship with the couple that you're tending to. So whether they might be a family member, they might be someone that you support, they could be, a family that you've sent out from a Sunday school class, you might just be the person on the missions committee that got assigned, to look after this couple. Whatever the case may be, one of the most important things that you can do is develop a non-threatening relationship, and I'll even say /friendship with this couple. So did you catch that? A non-threatening relationship. Now, why would I use, that term, non-threatening? Anybody got thoughts on that? Why would I say that's important? You want them to listen to you, of course. What else?
You want them to feel safe to share.
You want them to feel safe. That to me is just key. Because if someone's coming to them and saying, "Oh, I'm your advocate, at Church of the Open Door. So here's what I want to get to know you. And how have you been doing? How many people have you led to the Lord? How many blah 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 blah?" And you're a statistician. Well, of course, the threat right there is, how many marks can we give for "I did a good job" kind of thing. And then there's not relationship that's built. There's not understanding there. It's just right off the bat, we've just started off on the wrong foot with them. So I think first and foremost to seek to develop to the best of your ability a non-threatening relationship. The couple you're providing care for need to know you're in partnership with them as they serve. You're on their side. You want them to succeed. You care about their ministry. You want to be a part of it to the best ability that you have to do that from a distance. Because unless you've got, a lot of money put together, you probably won't be going and seeing them on site. They need to know that you care, and I will add this, deeply, about who they are, not just about what they do. And as Perry was saying earlier, there is a sense of accountability. Sure, we need to be accountable for being sent and to the church, not, and certainly accountable to the Lord. But they need to know that you value them. I mean, any of us can think about that. You stand a little taller when someone values you. They need to know that. They need to know that you care about their physical, their emotional, their social, and their spiritual well-being. Very, very important. So with that in mind, we're going to look at 5 key areas that I think have significant impact on missionary couples. And the stressors that I feel, and this is a term I use all the time, are occupational hazards of missionary life. Everybody's going to face this. It just comes with the job. And so they are, and I've listed them for you here, 5 different areas: departure for the field, field arrival, home life on the field, ministry, and then we've got them coming back again. They're coming to the States for rest, renewal, they're coming home for, furlough is now kind of an outdated term. It's home assignment that they're coming back for. So first of all, let's just talk about departure for the field. If you're given a couple to look after, or those that you're tending to, it may be their first time as newbies to go to the field, or it might be the couple that's been on the field for 30 years that's coming back home or going out again, perhaps even going to a new assignment again. But the stressors are still the same when you're going back or going to the field. Finances. Number 1, off the bat. Anybody that's going, even if you've gone on a short-term missions trip, you know what it is to raise funds to take you there. Well, what are you doing in the meantime? Have you been able to quit your job so that you're not, you can give full time to raising support, raising donors to be a part of a team with you, sharing your story, going here, going there? If you used to be part of the, Baptist missions, you went to the Baptist churches, but your support was already raised for you. Those people we just envied like everything. It was like, oh, how wonderful. But for the most part, every missionary is going through that whole issue of this is what we need to live on, this is what we need to get there, how are we going to do this? And there's a lot of personal, how will this happen? When, of course, we know we're relying on the Lord to make this happen. If He's called you, He will do what He's promised to do. But still, the stressors of that, getting donors, wondering who will give, wondering what relationships will be with them. And some missionaries, I will put it bluntly to you. It's just another notch on my belt. We got 2 more. We got 6 more. They did this. And what you can do to encourage someone is to be able to say, let's partner together in this. Let's see what God will do in this. Let's allow Him to work in this. Proactive care. Actively praying with and for your couple as they seek God's provision. Helping with their fundraising. Perhaps there's a special project that you could engage in. Make introductions for them. Think about who you could introduce them to. That you've got friends that say, man, global missions, I'm so interested in that. I can't believe your neighbors are going to the field. Well, let me introduce you to them. Let them have the opportunity to tell you about what God has called them to. Perhaps you'd like to get involved with them. So on their behalf, as a caregiver to them, you have opportunity to assist in that. And it's a ginormous task to raise funds to go.
Excuse me. You're talking about departure for the field?
Mm-hmm.
They have to do that raising finances before they go.
Certainly.
Okay, so that's more like home assignment.
Well, actually, I'm talking about the first time they're going, or maybe they're going back again. It's brand new. I've left my job. God's called me to the mission field. You know, the whole "So Send I You" song going.
So you're not talking about actually leaving at the time.
Not at that. They're doing everything. This is
before they leave.
Pre-field.
Okay.
They've got to get themselves there. So how are we going to do that? We've got to raise funds. And again, I'm just trying to, as quickly as we can in our brief hour together, hit the hot things that every missionary goes through. So one of those very first ones that they face, especially as newbies, is I need this much money to get there, to be there, to manage life there. It's, seems insurmountable. Yeah.
Isn't it also true that once a person gets on the field, they see their finances kind of dip? So it's a constant pressure.
It's a constant pressure. You're exactly right. It very much is. And you never know how much money will be left at the end of the month. Because every month, if someone doesn't give, well, then you're that much lower than what you live on less than you had.
And it's harder to fundraise when you're overseas.
It is. It's terribly hard. So those are stressors. That's major pressure. One of the next things that happens is just shopping. We've got to prepare. We've got to get everything we need to take with us to the field. And before they go, there's just items that have to be bought. So proactive care for that area to get the missionary to the field. Ask them what they need. Find out what they have to get there. It's a great way of helping children learn about funding and giving and what it takes to support a missionary. We had a young group of families in our church that decided to have a rummage sale, and everything that the rummage sale brought in was going to one particular missionary family that was from their Sunday school class. Well, the kids got involved. They brought their toys. I don't need this anymore. Let's sell it for money to give to my friends. And so practical things like that. One of the things I think you can do, and I really think any church group, ladies group, whatever, should be aware of this. Be very honest about what you have to be able to give at a certain time. So if somebody's coming home from the field, we'll jump ahead and we'll bring them home right now, or they're going from church to church to church and raising their funds. That poor missionary mama's wearing the same dress every time she goes to every place that she goes, and every cent is coming in to go for everything else that she needs. Wouldn't it be great if a group of girls got around that wife and said, honey, we love you. We have $62.83. We are going to take that out with you, and we're going to go find you a couple new outfits. And then we're going to get you a haircut too, because Jane's offered, she's a hairdresser, and we're going to go to her salon. And we're just going to do that with you. And we brought sack lunches, so we're not spending any of that money on whatever. Practical ways to just offer encouragement and help, and know that that $62, if you handed her a check, it's going to go for shoes for the kids, or it's going to go for the groceries that they need, or gas in the car to get to the next church. So caring practically, and goodness, ask the Lord, what can we do that's practical? And especially then, if you don't even have your $62, we've got less than that, and we've got our imagination. So use it. Use it. Packing. You know, this relates perhaps more to the newbie that's heading to the field. An area that can be quite stressful on a marriage is the whole issue of packing. Can you imagine why? Yeah. The bigger issue, not just about packing, because there are suitcases that need to be in order. And if you're ever at an airport and you see some family with 17 pieces of luggage and not one of them matches, you can probably count on they're headed to the mission field. There's shipments involved some places. There's perhaps getting a crate, getting a container. But the bigger issue is, what are we taking? What are we leaving behind? Where are we putting what we leave behind? And are we leaving a pet? Those are big issues that hit a couple fast and hard, because that mama, she needs this to nest in her new place. And her husband says, that's ridiculous. We're going to the mission field. You don't take that with. And then the kids are just, crushed over the dog that they're leaving behind. And what are they doing with it? And who's going to take care of it? Yes, sweetie?
One wise missionary told us, bring what you need to make it feel like home.
I would agree. Now, that's not always the case. It's not always prudent to be able to do that. But there are little things that you can encourage them to take that just says home. And I can't tell you how valuable those little things even are when you are there. So is it worth it to spend the extra $100 to take the extra suitcase, to take the extra piece of luggage? Yes, it is. Because it's like Christmas when you get to that place, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, so I won't run ahead. So proactive care. Ask questions. What do you need help with? What hurts as you're packing this stuff up with? Do you need a place to store stuff? What are you going to do with that? And here's a huge question. Lots of missionaries feel, and you'll see my bent on this, what do we do with the house? Do we sell the house? We sold the car, we sold this, we sold all of that. Do we sell the house if they were fortunate enough to already own a house? And I happen to be of the bent that says keep the house. And the only reason I really feel that way is that we've worked with so many hundreds of missionary kids all over the world. And when they come back to their passport country, whether it's Sweden, where they, mom and dad are from Sweden, or it's the U.S. or whatever, where's home? Home was in Pago Pago. Home was in Ukarumpa in Papua New Guinea. And I'm not there anymore. And I can't be there anymore because I turned 18. And I'm not the missionary, and I've got to go to school, and I don't want to go live with great Aunt Gracie because I don't know her and she smells. So where's home? And then when they're going on furlough and coming back and forth, maybe if mom and dad are career missionaries, I've been to my home country 4 times. But I'm much more comfortable with life over here, but I have to come back and do life in America. But where's home? So we didn't own a home when we went to Papua New Guinea, but on our last furlough, we bought a little tiny cottage in Williams Bay, Wisconsin, down by Lake Geneva, and that was home. And we never dreamed we'd ever live in it. It was just going to be a furlough a few months here because it was a tiny little spot. But the kids knew there's a place in America called home. And that's why I really believe if they got it and can keep it, not always can you keep it, but if you can, and then it takes people that are around them to know that we'll help you, we'll be your leasing person, your leasing agent, or we'll be whatever, we'll look after your home for you, so that when you come back, you come back to the known, and it feels good. Okay? Let's see. How else? Proactive care. They're trying to pack. They're trying to get rid of everything. Provide child care for them if they've got the kids. Make meals. Clean for them. Get as practical as you can. Tease them during the process. And I'll say this too. Yell at the kids for them. Maybe they've just had it with the kids and they just need some other adult to step in and look after those kids for a little while. And when the kids will be misbehaving because their world's being turned upside down, if they're a family that already has children that are going to the field, accept those kids with love and excuse their behaviors and laugh with the parents over it and help them to discipline in godly ways, because they're already up on this shelf being observed and being watched. And the pressure of that is just unbelievable, because we're trying to get people on our team and people on our side. And my kids are misbehaving, and oh, what do we do with that? So, yes, you had something.
One thing that's very helpful is how do we get a car?
It is. Well, we can talk about all kinds of things too. You come back from being overseas, you don't even know how to pump gas in this country because it's different from it was in that country, and you're just a dodo at the gas station because you're frustrated, and then I'm going overseas and I will need a car while I'm there because there is no public transportation. What am I going to do? How do I do that? So
The best thing that happened to us was there was a car dealer in Minneapolis, and he said, whenever you come home, you come to me. He handed us the keys and the insurance papers and said, I'll see you at the end of your furlough.
how wonderful. How wonderful.
Of course, it only lasted a few furloughs. And then
but-
we were
but-
back again wondering,
but
where are we?
it
We
did.
didn't want to buy one because we didn't want to sell it upon leaving. So.
Yeah. So then we've got them all packed. They're ready to go. They know that we're walking the journey with them, and they're going to say goodbyes. So now it's the endless stream of goodbyes, because everybody wants to see you because you're going away for 4 years or longer or whatever, and you're going to the other side of the world or places unknown. So from one family to another family to another family, you're doing all of your visits. It's exhausting. Does a family get to stay home one night in their bare bones house because they've packed everything up? Oh, be aware that they don't have a place to be, or there's hardly any furniture, or they're going to sleep on the floor, or whatever, because it's the last days before they're leaving. So they don't have any means to cook. They've saved every bit of money that they've got to take them where they're going. Give them a food card, cards for restaurants or something that practical ways to help them out. Bring pizza to them. Just be honest. So then once all the goodbyes are said, it's off to the airport. And what's the best thing to do? Big farewells, small farewells? What would they be comfortable with? Help them decide what they want to do with that. Perry and I left for Papua New Guinea the first time by driving our little car away from my parents' house in central Illinois, and it was the worst thing we could have ever done. We bawled our eyes out for hours down the interstate, and we never did that ever again in all of our comings and goings from the other side of the world. And what we learned to do, and what I've suggested this to families for ages, have your family join you for a day or possibly 2 days at the point of your departure. And for us, it was St. Louis, Illinois, where we left from. And get a place like a Holodome, the place that has the fun park and the stuff, and the motel rooms and the swimming pool. And you just go there with those nearest and dearest to you, especially mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, or whatever, and you swim in the pool, and you watch movies, and you play the stupid games, and you do all of that, and then you truck yourselves over to the airport the next day or the day after, and you say your goodbyes there. And of course, it's hard as all get out. It just is, because they're not going to be the same and you're not going to be the same when you see each other again. But I tell you, it's one of the better things to do. It just takes all the pressure off, because you're not saying goodbye to each other at your doorsteps like you've done before, to the family pets, or that's already behind you, and you've been able to get yourself pulled together just a little bit. But I tell you too, after all those goodbyes, missionaries are exhausted. And then you're getting on the airplane with all your 17 pieces of luggage and your kids in tow. Or even if you're just a couple, it's still the two of you, family, that are climbing on that plane for a place that's, for the first time especially, unknown. And it wears you out. So here's my second suggestion on this. If it's at all possible, encourage your missionaries to stop along the way and stay someplace. We were fortunate in that we learned to stop in all places, Hawaii, because we had people there that knew us and said, come stay at our house. And we would stop because that was the route we were taking. And we would get 2 to 3 days just sitting on the beach, just playing with the kids, just talking about what we'd left behind, talking about how we'd said goodbye to everybody, reminiscing and resting. Because the minute you get to the field, it's all hands on deck. There's so many things to do. And then there's an assault on everything that you can't even imagine, because it's a whole new ball of wax now. You've arrived on your mission field. Everything is new. The sights are new. The sounds are new. The smells are new. Home is new. Foods are new. The people are new. Relationships are new. The job will be new. The other kids around are new. The language, the culture, everything assaults you as something new. I remember when we went to Papua New Guinea, we had very dear friends that had served 2 terms already in Papua New Guinea. And I asked the wife, what one thing would you tell me I need to know before I get to Papua New Guinea? And she thought for just a moment, looked right at me, serious as could be, and said, it is the armpit of the world. Now, I knew she loved Papua New Guinea. I knew she did. And I said, well, explain that to me. She said, no, there's no explanations needed. So when I got off the airplane, I knew exactly what she was talking about. And Wendy's smirking over there because she can get this too. The humidity and the heat just assault you. And instantly, what you were going in your best bib and tucker to get off that plane to be received has wilted on you. And the smell, there is a certain, anybody been to Papua New Guinea besides Wendy and I? There's just an odor that is Papua New Guinea. I came to love that odor. But the first time you smell it, it's just like, And so I had preparation though. And it was like, she told me, doggone it, if she isn't right, I know what she means right now. So again, everything's going to be new and different. So, proactive care. What do you do for your missionaries that have just arrived for the first time, especially on that foreign field? 3 words. Pray like crazy. Pray like crazy for them. These can be some of the most rewarding, enjoyable, memorable days, as well as some of the most upsetting, unnatural, disruptive, nerve-wracking in a missionary couple's experience. So you've got this dichotomy. You've got 2 things. We're here. We arrived. We finally made it. This is fabulous. I can't believe we're going to live here. I can't understand a thing. I don't know what to do. So all of that hits you at one time. You often feel as a new missionary like you're being stripped of everything that you were in control of just a few minutes before. So you can imagine the stressors when you felt, I have no control over this, I don't know what to do with this, but personify that because it's cross-cultural. And maybe I don't know the language yet, and maybe I can't believe people look like this, or they behave this way, or they do this. So I have stories to tell from when we went to the field that, I felt like dodo brain. I was more responsive to that than my own name. It was just so many things that I felt like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what to say. Often the normal cues that affirm you are acting in a socially appropriate manner fly out the window. because the culture does not act this way. So that's very, disconcerting. Feelings of incompetence hit fast. They hit hard and fast. Language learning for us, the first time we went to the field, we worked in Mexico. We were trained in Southwest Texas with Wycliffe, and we spent 3 months in Mexico. Now, I had French in high school. Perry had Spanish. Every time I opened my mouth to speak in Spanish, French came out. I was so frustrated by it. I just had the hardest time wrapping my head around it. Perry was different. He had 4 years of Spanish. He felt very comfortable in all this. And you can imagine the stress. We only had an 18-month-old at that time, so lots of kids wasn't the issue. But I wanted to be able to do what he was doing, and yet I still couldn't. We were assigned to a family to live with across the border in Piedras Negras, Coahuila, and we went there to live with this family for a month and a half. When we got to the family home, we were introduced to the mamacita. Her name was Socorro Salazar, and she welcomed us graciously into her home. She's allowing this gringo couple, and their child to come in and live in her little adobe house for, about 6 weeks. And our mentor brought us in, introduced us, and left. So she starts going blah, 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 in her Spanish. And my husband, who had had 4 years of Spanish, went, duh. I mean, that shock of this assault on us, and his language just flew out his brain. Well, my French was no help to her whatsoever. So we're trying to finger communicate and come up with a couple of words. And abuela is the Spanish word for grandmother. So our son immediately started calling her Berlela, which just endeared her, to him and him to her. So that helped. But she opened up photo albums and started showing us pictures in the photo albums, trying to explain what she was explaining to us that we couldn't understand, and they were all gravestones. And we're just there, oh, lo siento, we're so sorry. All of these pictures, gravestones upon gravestones. And her husband wasn't around. We knew she had sons. They weren't around. Oh, they've all died. They didn't tell us. We're coming into this widow's house. Oh, my goodness. And all the thoughts going through our heads. At 5 o'clock, 3 men walked through the door. Her husband and her 2 sons. Who make gravestones. We were so relieved. We were so happy. And at that moment, Perry's language kicked back in, and we got it, and my French still came out, but it was different. We got it. So imagine that. I mean, that was a funny situation. But you put 6 kids in the picture, or you put more pressures on you with everything else, because it's not as easy as this little cross the border situation. You've walked into Kabul, or you're in bombed out Beirut. You've already got the pressures of the Muslim world around you because that call to prayer is going off how many times a day? And you didn't know it was going to be that loud. You didn't know it was going to penetrate your ears. And then the kids are hungry. And you can't recognize what's on the canned goods cans that the sweet people left for you on the shelf so that you could prepare it for your family. So you get the stressors there, the pressures that are there.
How do you make it through?
Well, again, when you go right back to, okay, we are called to this much the same way I believe a hospice care worker is called. We are equipped to do this. This is high calling. So that's when you drop to your knees and say, Lord, help us to accept what's ever in this can tonight and give you thanks for it. Because somebody did care enough to bring it here to us. And we're not going to starve if we don't get to eat tonight. We'll figure this out. But Lord, we need you right now to get us through this, because it's just lousy hard, stinking hard. I didn't think it would be this hard. I thought it was going to be a piece of cake. I remember feeling so incompetent in language learning that the neighbor's dog understood more language than I did. And that's pretty defeating. So proactive care here. Even with language learning, encourage couples not to compete with each other, but to complete each other. They're in partnership with each other. Let's complete this task together. Let's do it alongside each other. Too often in missionary circles, the wife, her role is undefined. And therefore, her success isn't measurable. Again, the loss of feelings of self-esteem may be experienced. Her husband may be defined as the missionary. He's the church planter. He's the educator. He's some other definable role. And while the wife may not have one, her role might be, I'm taking care of all these kids. I have to go to the river to collect water. I've got to go, sterilize this water. I mean, her role is definable, but not in her eyes and not necessarily in the eyes of the church that sent her. So those, issues come into play. So proactive care here. Value that woman for who she is. She is a daughter of the King. She is serving cross-culturally. She is giving of herself to care for that family that God has blessed them with. She needs to be valued for that, encouraged in that. She cares for unique needs. Oftentimes, she's the one that keeps it all together. And the pressures of that are great as she makes the way for her husband to do what he needs to do. Because a lot of the missions community and world out there, it's a man's world. And where she's walked into, maybe there's not a woman in that country that's valued for being a female. And that's where she's serving.
What would you say to the woman who has a master's degree, goes overseas, and finds herself in that situation?
Fight like crazy is what I want to say. But she has to be a woman that is willing to submit to what the norms are there, and yet hold on to, I do have this ability. I think I've seen the Lord in multiple cases take that woman and open doors of opportunity to her that she didn't expect. This is not what I came here for. But God says, I have other plans for you, darling girl, because you are gifted. You do have this education, and I'm going to use you in this avenue for it. But oftentimes it's very, very difficult because it just is a man's world. But if we go back and look at the history of missions wouldn't be where it is today without the women that went to the field first. And you can see their graves scattered all over the world. Yes, you had your hand raised back there.
Well, I was just going to say that no matter what preparation one has here for homeland, one has to go as a learner, and that's just foundational to it. Is God goes a learner to begin with.
You certainly do.
You've been talking about you're like a baby, totally dependent on others.
When it comes to proactive care, again, simply for this woman, send her personal cards or notes. Emails are wonderful, that sort of thing. But when you go to your mailbox and there's something tangible to pull out of your mailbox, it means the world because somebody took the time to write it and stick a stamp on it. And you might think, oh, that's nothing. When you've had the hardest day in the world and you go to that mailbox and there's something there, it means something. It really does. And then if you put something that would go through the mail and your favorite tea, or just a tea bag in there that's not used. We got used tea bags once. I mean, it still happens. We got candy bars once sent to us that they'd taken those fake teeth and they'd taken a bite out of each candy bar so that they could go through customs to say that it was used material. And of course, you couldn't eat a thing. We laughed over it. We actually buried those candy bars. but be practical in that. But send notes, send cards. Of course, care packages are wonderful. Know whether they can receive them or not. Know whether they're going to pay a fortune to get it out of duty. And if they are, send them the money for duty. We paid over $100 once for a little tiny Christmas box, for the kids. It was because it had batteries in it, and they had labeled it, such. So learn the cues, learn what they can get there. You don't want to send her boxes of macaroni and cheese if she can get macaroni and cheese where she's at. But to the woman that can't, that's like a box of gold. You sent her a box of macaroni and cheese.
Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon.
Amazon work.
Can
It,
you get online and
in
Amazon in whatever country it is?
well, in lots of countries, there's some places where that doesn't work. But yeah, but yes, use that. But here's the other thing: you need to know the difference between whom you are serving, whether they are in an urban setting. I mean, we've got missionaries we're supporting. They're in Budapest. The things that she needs are very different from my girlfriend that's living in a grass hut in Mali, West Africa. So what I send her isn't what I just send her because I'm doing the missionary thing and sending them a gift. So, can this one use an Amazon card that they can go and order their own things? Or this one can't do that because we don't even have internet where we're at. It's so random. I'd just be glad for clean drinking water, So know who's where and what they're doing. And then this one I would offer to you. If you're writing to them, let them off the hook. Don't expect to get a return from them. Like, I want to know immediately. I mean, it would be nice if you knew they did get it. But send that with God's prayer. A prayer to Him over whatever you're sending, and let it be. It's in God's hands to get it there to them. And let them off the hook. So that, they're already bogged down with just life to have to write a note again or write a letter or feel like they had to respond to every question you asked them in your letter. So just and again, as a missionary woman, I felt responsible. I did want to write back to people. I did want to tell them. But I can't tell you how wonderful it was when you'd get somebody that says, "Sweetie, I'll be eager to hear your news whenever you've got time. And the news you put in a prayer letter is enough for me. I just want you to know I love you. I care about you. I'm thinking of you today. I'm praying these scriptures over you today." I can't tell you what that does for you when you're alone in an isolated place. Okay, we're going to move on now to home life, and I'm going to rush through these. The missionary couple is settled into what's becoming their new normal on the field. What stressors now might possibly attack this missionary couple? How about this one, a lack of privacy? Many feel that they don't have any privacy. They feel like they're living in a fishbowl since people, are always watching them. You might be the isolated translator that's in a village setting. You're the only white skins there. Everyone is traipsing back and forth, or it's customary just to walk in your house any time of day or night. And that's not the norm where we come from, but it's the norm in this village setting. So any of those circumstances, when we lived in Papua New Guinea, it's Wycliffe's largest mission center in the world. And it's like its own subdivision. And we built our own house there, but the other lot was over there where the table is. So it was a distance away, or you weren't right on top of each other. When we had the privilege of going to Peru, to Yarinacocha, where Wycliffe has their center, the houses were like this far apart from each other, and it's jungle. So they have no windows. They have screens. You can hear the person next door that's dealing with Montezuma's revenge because their bathroom is right over here, and you know who's sick. You can hear the couple next door having an argument with each other because their kids are misbehaving, because you can hear it. You're living in that kind of a fishbowl. Those stressors, I can't even yell at my kids without so-and-so next door knowing about it. I can't even be sick to my stomach without the neighbors knowing it. Talk about stressors and pressures. Many places we're accustomed to public displays of affection. I'll hold my husband's hand. I'll put my arm around his shoulder. In many cultures, that's strictly taboo. That's been our language, our love language, to to touch each other in an appropriate way. I can't do that anymore. I'm going into a country now where I have to be covered from head to toe. I can't even let my ankles show when I'm out. I have to walk 2 feet behind my husband. I can't walk next to him anymore. Stressors like that. They have to learn how to be culturally sensitive to the place that they've gone to. Many times, now we're spending all this time together in ministry. We are with each other 24/7. We didn't live that way in the States. He went to a 9-to-5 job. I did this. Now we are with each other constantly. I just need a little time to myself. There's no place to go. It's just with him, by him, around him, with these kids, together, together, together in some instances. So there's a stressor. Physical distress. You can't even imagine what assaults a body when you go into a new country. Every bug that's available comes calling at your door. So if you just get over malaria, well, then you're dealing with dysentery. And then if you deal with the dysentery, well, now the amoebas, that's, coming. And then strep throat went through the whole center at the school with the kids. And I mean, it's just attack of attack of attack on physical issues. Spending time together. Many might find just the opposite of those that are with each other all the time. Ministry draws my husband away to that border country. And he goes over there for 3 weeks at a time, and I stay back in this country with the kids. Now, again, I have very personal issues about that type of ministry because I think it's very dangerous for a couple to be separated where the husband's going into that sex traffic-ridden country and he's away from his loving wife and from natural desires of a married couple and putting himself in that situation. And the mission agency saying, it's all right, it's for the sake of the gospel. So you go over here and do this, and you stay over here in this country and keep working with your kids and keep them in their educational system, and you practice, the good mom missionary thing, and he'll be all right over there. And I say, that's exactly where the enemy comes and shoots arrows. He knows exactly what those failings are. There's already been, he left her with an argument that day. They didn't agree on something. And now you add that into the separation. Well, then you add, Dad's come home now, but Mom's been in charge for 3 weeks. And now Dad wants to come in and take over. And the kids are like, well, which one do we listen to? And I don't want to listen to either one of you. So, dropped my earring. Yep, and then there's the jewelry. So you've got that issue that you're facing as well, stressors. Then the environment brings on new stressors. Smaller place to live, fewer conveniences, there's thievery, no child care, less time as a couple, all combined to create stresses. And this can increase anger cycles with each other, frustrations just with each other. So again, when we lived at Ukarumpa, people owned their own homes. If you came to the field and you didn't own your own home, you got assigned to a home to live. Maybe while the family that owned the home was living out in the jungle doing translation work. So they were going to be out for 6 months. You moved into their house. Well, at the end of 6 months, they're coming back in. You've got to move to another house. Well, the kids just got used to that bedroom. We just got used to taking care of their dog for them. Now we've got to leave the dog and move to someplace else. So, stressors but it's part and parcel of missionary life. Again, 3 words. What are they? Pray like crazy. With just the things you've written down, the things that I've suggested, do you get an idea of what you could pray for?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope so. And again, you say, oh, well, what's that? It is so much. Pray for health for them. Pray that God would protect them from illness, from that disease. Pray that He would provide the right medications to deal with whatever they might get. Pray that husband and wife would have such unity with each other and would stay in such close contact with each other even while that husband crosses the border into that other country. That they would stay in communion with each other and loyalty to each other. So all those kinds of things and more to be able to pray for them. You know, there were days on our station, we lived in a place, Wendy and I, called Ukarumpa. There would be days when I would write home to my mom and one girlfriend, and I would say, greetings from Yukapupa, because I'd had it. I had absolutely had it. It is so wonderful if who you're caring for knows that they can write anything to you, and you will not think less of them as a missionary. You will have tender hearts and compassion over what they're facing. You will read between the lines with what they've shared and know better how to pray for them, and then let them know what you are praying over them. Be vocal about that. That kind of support is so valuable. To know that there's somebody else that cares and still thinks I'm qualified to do this job. Pray for God's grace in their lives. Pray that they will find times of refreshment and renewal. At our center at Ukarumpa, we had a meeting house, and every Sunday it acted as a local church on our center. And there would be a committee that would take care of who was preaching Sunday to Sunday. And because we had almost 30 nationalities on our center, it was very interdenominational with our churches that we had come from. So one Sunday it would be more of a Pentecostal service. The next Sunday it might be a very liturgical service. The next Sunday it could be a very Baptist service. Then you might be back to an assemblies kind of service. Then it was, and from week to week, month to month, it was a different variety of church. Well, Perry and I made the decision that we wanted our kids to know pastoral care. And we wanted them to be a part of a local church. So we went 7 miles away every Sunday to be with a small Papua New Guinea church that had a Swiss pastor from Bern, Switzerland. And he pastored us. And the kids grew up with all these Papua New Guineans in their Sunday school class. And I taught in a grass hut with a dirt floor and brought in my little flannel grass for 80 little Papua New Guineans at one time that sat there just spellbound. So well behaved over what they were hearing and learning. And not everybody could do that. Not everybody has a place to go get that. And our pastor was so good. He'd look at us and he'd go, bring the kids over on Friday night. I've made a reservation for you over at the grass hut around the corner. And you guys are going to go, and it literally was a grass hut. You're going to go stay there for the weekend and we'll take care of the kids. And he did that for the New Guineans as well, providing pastoral care that was hands-on. So you pray for them that somehow they will get that kind of care where they are at. They'll be able to find it. Now, certainly, again, missionaries need to be accountable with their supporters, but I could just cheerlead again what Perry was saying before. Realize they are not miracle workers to do this job. They're not superhumans that can't be disturbed by just the realities of life. There's going to be hard stuff that they face. So, extend grace. If time and or finances ever allow, go see them. Show up. And do nothing but, I just came to be with you. I don't need you to be my tour guide. I don't need to go take pictures of everything. I don't have to be the tourist. I'm not here for that. Maybe I'll do that on the way home or on the way back or whatever. I just want to be with you. I want to tell you how much I care. I came. I showed up. Now we're going to move on quickly to ministry. And one of the bigger issues here is, how do you live in two worlds? I live in this country over here for 4 years, and then I've got to go back to my passport country. One of the biggest things that hits missionary kids is they develop such a love for maybe where I'm growing up at, that when it comes to going back to back home, I don't know how to do it. And maybe mom and dad have bashed life in the States because it's so much better here in this place where we live. And if that's the case, you really need to be able to talk well with your missionaries and train them that if it wasn't for your passport country and these dear partners that love you, you would not be working for the kingdom purposes in that place. So I encourage them to build a love for that country as well as maintain a love, and I'll just say for the USA, because we're talking U.S. missions here. And then if you can, talk to those parents about, is there anybody in the States that your kids trust? So when you're not there, when you're still back in Pago Pago, who are they going to call when, the car ran out of gas? Who are they going to call when they find themselves being arrested? Who's safe? Who are they going to call? And I think it's very, very important that we help our missionaries understand, whether you're it or someone else is, I'm here to be that for your kids. So I've got to develop a relationship with them. So when they come back, it's not just grandma or grandpa that live, 800 miles away. They're coming back to this area. They've got somebody they can trust. Because sure as the world, they will get on their phone, and now with cell phones and everything else, they can call mom and dad in Pago Pago most of the time. But they're not right there. They need somebody with skin on right there to be able to help them. So, missionary stressful factors, I'm just going to give you a few. Dirt everywhere, pollution, earthquakes, team conflict, heat, humidity, leadership problems, turnover of teammates, changes in the leadership structure, government bureaucracy, being hassled at checkpoint, roadblocks, poor heating, frozen water pipes, isolation, loneliness. That's just under situational things. Now you put daily hassles, communication challenges. I can't speak. I can't read the language yet. There's no hot water. There's constant interruptions. The bikes were stolen. That's how we got around. Local babysitters, not being one of them. I don't belong. Everything takes longer. Shopping, just going to get daily bread, just paying the bills. All of that. Noisy living environment. And I can't tell you, if you've never heard a call to worship in a Muslim, it just grates on you. When I'm overseas in that kind of community, I always have a headset just to plug in praise and worship, because it reminds me of who I'm there to minister to and who to be praying for when that call of worship. Oh, it's just, it's hard. It's very hard. Then you've got life events. They miss the birth of their niece or nephew, or the death of grandma or grandpa, or moving overseas with a 6-month-old, dealing with an abnormal pregnancy, miscarriage. There's all kinds of things that go on with residency renewal issues, passports. Where on earth are we going to stay when we go back to the States? Stressors that just, but it's part of life. It's an occupational hazard of the life of this missionary. It comes with the territory. What a list. What we can do is remind them over and over and over. You have Christ within you, the hope of glory. You are here to teach Christ, to read about Christ, to explain the gospel. So proactive care, be aware. Just be aware. And again, a large city is not the same as a rural area, is the same as a jungle setting. And then they come home, if they know where home is. And then they're supposed to rest and get some renewal. But they have 27 churches across 15 states to go to that want a piece of them for 5 minutes on a Sunday morning. And we've come all this way to tell one story, to dress the kids in little Catawban outfits, and to make nice and hold our spears, and do the missionary thing. And it's just defeating and hard. Perry and I we have been blessed. We have been missionaries for 38 years. We have 2 supporting churches. I can't tell you what it is to be supported by 2 churches. So that when we are home on furlough, and even now we're state assigned and we go global all the time, we minister in 2 churches. And so when people say, but what if that church folds? And where goes the money if only 2 churches are supporting you? Well, we serve a big God that can handle that. So again, I'm just a big proponent of if you can be the church that sends and provides, then when they come home, they're with you. You've got them. You work together, and you don't just take the 5 minutes on Sunday, because you get to do the next 9 months with them, or 6 months, or 3 months, whatever that time at home is. And oh, the joys of building them up and lifting them up and surrounding them and encouraging them. But here's a warning. No missionary ever should be put on a pedestal. Ever. It does not honor God. It does not help the missionary. It does nothing for you putting them there. They are a fellow sojourner on this plot of land. And they are just like you. They just went further. Because if we are Christ followers, we are going ye into all the world to preach the gospel. Some of us just go 2 blocks away, and others go to the ends of the earth. So we need to be in community with each other, as equals with each other, and certainly appreciating what they do. But don't put them up here. Don't. The enemy comes in and uses that, and well, I'm the missionary. Shouldn't you give to us? No. Okay? I had a girlfriend, I still have her, and she always said to me, Sandy, I could never do what you do. I could never do what you do. And I'd say, Pam, of course you can. Of course you could come and do this. And then I got to the field, and I realized Pam would be a lousy missionary. She couldn't do it. She doesn't do well in cross-cultural situations. She doesn't do well leaving home. Now, she could live in a grass hut and do that quite well because she's adaptable, but she would be lousy at every other aspect of it. And that's when I learned God calls people to go further, and He calls people closer to stay and send. And Pam is a fabulous sender. I mean, a fabulous sender, a fabulous caregiver. And that's what God's called her to do. So we've got to make the distinctions between the two. Okay, the very, very last thing here is 2 scriptures that I want to give you. This to me has always, Psalm 61:2. Psalm 61:2 has always been my missionary woman's verse that I give to missionary women everywhere, and I give it to women in the States too. It says, from the ends of the earth I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me back to the rock that is higher than I. If there's anything you can encourage your missionaries in, it's to go back to the rock, to the solid foundation, because they will feel, and I have been in Papua New Guinea where there should have been a billboard that said you have arrived at the end of the earth. So encourage them through, I'm praying for you, you darling couple. I'm praying for your kids. I'm praying this over you because, and this is important to be reminded of, and I love that this verse has been put in the book of Acts. It's Acts 17:22, and I will keep you just for 5 more minutes, I promise. From one man he made every nation of men that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he determined the time set for them and the exact places where they should live. Now, a missionary may go someplace for a season, but in that season, that is the exact place where they should live, if they are walking the walk intimately with their Savior, and He has called them to this place. So you can encourage them with that for this season in time. And it's not a mistake that you were born into this generation, that God would appoint that you are where you are in this place. And it's where I am now, in this place, because God has appointed exactly where we should live. And I love this. Verse 23 continues. God did this so that men would seek Him and perhaps reach out for Him and find Him, though He is not far from each one of us. Great verses that you can give and pray over them. Then lastly, if you'll look at that page that's next on your sheets there that's debriefing, I just want to give you this paragraph, and we'll just read through it. Missionary debriefing is a relational and intentional process. And I italicize those and underline them for you because it can't just be, okay, hey, tell me this, answer this question, tell me this, I'm checking it off the list and I'm taking it to the missions committee. That's just reporting. Debriefing is a process that provides an opportunity for a missionary to tell their story. It's designed to create time and space in a person's life so they can unpack and process the experiences which they've had, especially while serving on the field, by asking questions and listening with intent. So it's not just, yeah, I heard you. It's really listening. You promote an opportunity for a person to verbally process past recent events from their point of view, complete with their emotional responses at the time and since then. And you might think, I'm not qualified to do this. I don't know how to debrief. Even if you're not trained in debriefing, I've given you some questions here. These are from Scott Hicks. He's a psychologist with Barnabas International. And he explains here, not all the questions, but some of them. Just be there for them. Let them unpack. Show an interest. Care about their stories, what's happened to them. Maybe you'll gain some insights on what needs to happen while they're home, what care they might need while they're home. You might have a husband and wife that are sitting there like this, answering every question that you've given them. And that dear couple, they need some serious professional help. And I can't offer to you what you need, but honey, I'm going to go help you get it. So that you can be like this in partnership with each other again and not sitting there like this with each other. So, again, points of awareness. And Scott will talk you through all of this. I've also given you debriefing questions from Nairi Ohanian. She's a single missionary that serves with Barnabas, and she is Armenian. She is a dynamo. If you ever want somebody to come to your church and talk about missions, you need to call up Nairi Ohanian. She is the Apostle Paul. She's Peter. She's all of them wrapped up into one, and she works in Central Asia. She's just come out of Greece. She's come out of Jordan. She goes into Egypt. She goes to the places where we're just like, okay, Nairi, we are praying God's protection over you right now. And we talk with her daily when she's overseas for what she's doing. But she's prepared these debriefing questions for those people that have gone on a short-term assignment. And perhaps you might be assigned or work along with a team of short-termers. And they need the time to process well what they've experienced to be able to come back and share. So those are from Nairi. And then the last one that I've given you is just 31 ways to pray for your children. And there are so many of these that you can pray over your missionaries, over your missionary couple, over their children on their behalf, over your own children and grandchildren. These were developed by a couple of missionary women that serve in England, and we've used these for years. It's so valuable. We know this, to pray the scriptures, and so I when I was looking through all the notes, it's like, here, let's give them this. Oh, here, let's give them this. Let's give them this. So I offer that to you for those purposes. So I know this has been fast and furious. I hope you've gleaned something. Anybody have questions at all that we could share with each other or answer or anything? If not, I just want to commend you for coming to this conference. It shows you care about missions and missionaries, and God bless you as you provide care for each and every one of them. Have a good evening.
Just remember to fill out the